Hi, and welcome to Zoo 255, Invasion Zoology. I am Ana Pauline Odikia. You may just call me Ma'am Pao, and I am your lecturer for this graduate course. I am a professor of zoology at the Animal Biology Division in the Institute of Biological Sciences. I graduated with BS Zoology and MS Wildlife Studies degrees from UP Los Baños and obtained my PhD in Environmental Resources from Hokkaido University in Sapporo, Japan. Zoo 255 is a 3-unit course with 3 hours of lecture every week. This course discusses the dispersal, establishment, and adaptations of invasive animal species. I hope you'll enjoy this course. At the end of the course, the student should be able to A. Discuss various biological and ecological characteristics of invasive animal species. B. Differentiate the types and extent of animal invasions. C. Analyze how invasive animal species disrupt local ecological dynamics. And D. Evaluate methods for managing invasive animal species. For our course outline, we will start with an overview of the historical background and characteristics of invasive animals and their impacts. The second topic is ecological conditions for animal invasions, discussing the habitat as well as species diversity in invasion areas. 3. Routes of animal invasions. 4th, adaptations of invasive animal species. 5. Interactions of invasive and native species. 6. Consequences of animal invasions. And the last topic would be approaches to manage invasive animal species. Zoo 255 will be delivered through Google Classroom asynchronously. That means that although our schedule is 7 to 10 a.m. Tuesdays, you can access the video lectures and learning activities anytime. You just need to log in using your UP email address to join our classroom. Weekly study guides will be uploaded there every Tuesday, 7 a.m. Your learning outputs will be due Mondays, 5 p.m., unless scheduled otherwise. Additional materials and announcements may be posted in our classroom anytime, depending on the needs of the class. We will also schedule a Zoom meeting anytime this semester, just to see and talk and connect with each other. We can also communicate via UP Mail, SMS, or FB. For the course requirements, you will have 2 exams, which will comprise 40% of your final grade. Discussion forum, 10% of your final grade. Assignments and creative outputs, 30% of your final grade, and your term paper will be 20% of your final grade. So let's start. What are invasive alien species, or IAS? These are non-native species that threaten ecosystems, habitats, or species, as defined by the Convention on Biological Diversity in 2008. And when you think about invasive alien animal species, of course, what comes into mind would be this cane toad, or Rhinella marina, formerly called as Bufo marinus. Species such as this are key drivers of human-caused global environmental change, and you will know later what is the historical background on the introduction of Rhinella marina in the Philippines. And there is concern now about invasive alien species because they are a threat to biodiversity. Invasive alien species start out as introduced species, and not all introduced species become invasive. So dispersal or spread and their persistence will of course contribute to their invasiveness. So what is dispersal? Dispersal is the natural process and it's a natural ability of animals. Dispersal of animals are limited by their intrinsic characteristics, of course, and by natural barriers. This could be mountains, this could be bodies of water. Now, man has overcome these barriers and has conquered the world. So, man has a lot to do with the dispersal of this invasive animal species. Some of the invasive animal species actually are pet animals. As man conquered the world, they were accompanied not only by pets, but also by domesticated animals for food. So this could be an example of a habitat or an ecosystem that man has conquered. Now, bringing with him additional pet and food species, will this additional species enrich or ameliorate the ecosystem? So that's the question. Biological invasions have been strongly shaped by trends in human trade and transport. As early as 1500 AD, this was the end of the Middle Ages, and when there was European rediscovery of Americas, global exploration, birth of colonialism, and was the beginning of radical changes in patterns of human demography, agriculture, trade, and industry. So you can see here that the end of the Middle Ages was the age of exploration, the age of European colonization. So in the 1500s, you can see English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese explorations. The Americas was one of the regions that were colonized by the Europeans. In 1492, the Italian explorer and navigator Christopher Columbus discovered America. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador Hernando Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire. Let's not forget the Portuguese Ferdinand Magellan came to the Philippines in 1521. In 1532, another Spanish conquistador, Francisco Pizarro, conquered the Inca Empire of South America. In the 1600s, the first successful English settlement in the New World was established in Jamestown in Virginia. And in the late 1600s, King William's War was the first of 6 colonial wars fought between New France and New England, along with their respective American Indian native allies. The 1800s was a period of progressive increase in the annual rate of alien mammal, invertebrate, and plant introductions observed. The second phase coincided with the Industrial Revolution. There was an increase in international trade across continents, facilitated by the construction of canals, highways and railways, and introduction of steamships. From 1820 to 1930, there was spread of European species worldwide, aided by 50 million Europeans. So Africa was not spared from European colonization. And in fact, the Europeans brought Africans to the Americas for hard labor. And you can see here the difference in the areas colonized from 1880 to 1913. So the blue region is France, peach United Kingdom, green Portugal, yellow Spain, purple Belgium, and red Italy. As for Australia, in 1770, British Captain James Cook charts the East Coast, or the New South Wales. In 1788, British Navy Captain Arthur Phillip founds a penal settlement at Sydney, and he arrived there with a fleet of 11 vessels carrying approximately 800 convicts, 800 white convicts. So the Aboriginal population were approximately several hundred thousand. In 1829, a colony of Western Australia was established. In 1836, South Australia was established. And in the 1850s, gold was found at several locations. So it was a period of gold rush. The population increased 3 times, and the Aborigines suffered. So what are the effects of European colonization or invasion of these areas? They have decimated native human settlements, brought about by the diseases they carried. They brought in a new culture, and they also decimated the native biodiversity of those areas because they brought in introduced species of flora and fauna. The study of biological invasions is fairly recent. So Charles Elton in 1958 published The Ecology of Invasions by Animals and Plants. MacArthur and Wilson in 1967 published their paper or their book on island biogeography. And in the 1970s to the present, there are studies on biological invasions in Australasia. In the Philippines, there are about 27 invasive animal species, but this was published in 2010, so we might expect that we have a higher number now, and that rodent damage has been estimated to cause an annual loss of approximately $158 million. Shown here are the numbers of alien species per continent. So just alien species. And let's take a look at Asia. For Asia, we have the highest number of alien plant species at 18,000. For vertebrates, there are 300 fish species, 30 mammal species, and 4 bird species. For invertebrates, we also have one of the highest numbers of alien arthropods at 1,100 species. As I've said earlier, not all introduced species become invasive. What then are the characteristics of invasive species? Can you name some invasive animal species besides Rhinella marina? And what are the characteristics of invasive animal species? Invasiveness has something to do with the species niche or niche. Niche is a position of a species within an ecosystem, describing both the range of conditions necessary for persistence of the species and its ecological role in the ecosystem. These are the hypotheses of Prince and Gordon 2014. A species will not be able to invade an area that has abiotic conditions that are outside its physiological tolerance levels. Number 2, the extent of an invasion is negatively correlated to species diversity of functional guild competitors in the environment invaded. 3, an invasive species will not be able to replace a native species if they occupy the same niche and are in all other ways equal. Number 4, A species will not be able to invade an area that harbors pathogens or predators that is not encountered before. 5. A species will not be able to invade an area if its co-evolutionary species is not present in the area. 6. Species that occur at low population densities in their native range will not be invasive. 7. A species will not be able to invade an area if it has a lower use efficiency of its limiting resources than a native species that occupies the same location. 8. Species can more easily invade highly disturbed areas. This disturbance can be man-made or natural. 9. Species from older lineages are more vulnerable to being replaced by invasive species that occupy a similar niche. 10. A species will only be able to invade an area if it has a life history strategy which is more R-selected than that of the species which already is occupying the niche. And the last one is interesting. There are no rules concerning whether a species is invasive or not. It all happens by chance. Studies on biological invasions have shown that there are certain trends. For example, life history traits show that invasive animal species are those that have rapid growth, early maturity, short lifespans, and elevated fecundity. They also have broad tolerance to environmental conditions and plasticity, and they have the ability to respond to natural selection than on broad physiological tolerance or plasticity. There are quite a number of freshwater fish that are invasive species, and studies have shown that they have tolerance to a broad range of environmental conditions. They have rapid dispersal and colonization abilities. They have aggressive behavior and competitiveness, and these species are desired by humans. So these are the edible ones. They have sporting qualities and they have aesthetic characteristics. Studies on vertebrate invaders show that these are in close association with humans. They have high abundance. Their size is also a factor. They have a broad diet. They have short generation times, ability of the females to colonize alone, and tolerance to a wide range of physical conditions. According to the IUCN, the spread of invasive alien species, or IAS, is now recognized as one of the greatest threats to the ecological and economic well-being of the planet. It is the leading global threat to biodiversity, according to the Convention on Biological Diversity, as well as food security, according to the FAO. This lecture ends with a cartoon of how other species presumably would think about us. And you might think, where's the lie here, right? Thank you for listening. You may now proceed with your learning activity.